Good evening, colleagues. First of all, I think when we start to discuss Russian policy anywhere, we should mention one thing. There is framework for official diplomacy, which is represented by strategies and negotiation processes with various players. But at the same time, we see the action of realpolitik, and no one can provide a clear forecast, even within the expert community inside Russia. The fact is that the decision-making process here is a rather specific procedure. It's different than in European countries, in Pakistan, in United States, and analysis and recommendations on events and specific countries in the Middle East traditionally prepared at high level, taking into account the opinions of professionals from different communities, academic, intelligence, diplomatic. However, the interest of these communities may not coincide, and the final decision is always made in the presidential administration. And this is not affected by business interest or the assessment of the foreign ministry of Russia. I can give you an example from my personal experience when I participated on the round table on the first TV channel, the most important TV channel in Russia, and we discussed the question of whether Russia should provide military assistance to Syria or not when conflict started there. I expressed the idea that it is necessary, drawing attention to geopolitical factors and the need for strategy to protect Russia far from its borders in the context of the growing terrorist threat. All other experts, and there were a fairly high-level pool, were against this idea. They spoke of the importance of political support, economic aid, and diplomatic negotiations, but strongly opposed military involvement. And the next day, Kremlin was decided to provide military assistance to Syria, which began a new era of Russian presence in the Middle East. Later, it became known that Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu directly convinced President Vladimir Putin to conduct military operation. And however, at the time, the synchronization of assessments presented a picture according to which Russia's actions could be very different. Of course, one of the important points that influenced Russia's new role was the emergence of a political vacuum in the region, which Moscow began to fill with its own vision of the situation. It's important to note that Russia has been able to maintain constructive relations with almost all parties of the Middle East conflicts: Israel, Palestine, also both Sunni and Shia sects, keep contacts with Turkey and Kurds, also Iran and Arab monarchies of the Gulf. For example, Iran is participating in under special conditions into Eurasian Economic Union, and now we have in the process discussion that Israel may join also under special condition Eurasian Economic Union. It's very interesting. And Russia was not engaged with duties or obligations there like the United States. So Russia have kind of opportunity to have a free maneuvers in the Middle East. And now situation is more complicated than before, because more actors would like to reorganize geopolitical space and to project power on fragile states around. I think that Russia will wait and see how to react on the new events and developments. At the same time, Moscow will keep existing presence in the region. On the recent meeting of Russian diplomats and scholars, Special Envoy for Middle East and Africa, Mr. Bogdanov, told that the Israeli-Palestinian settlement remains a key issue for resolving all conflicts in the region, and the creation of a sovereign Palestine state and based on the activity of Palestine Liberation Organization must be implemented. I think it's very clear message and kind of continuation of diplomatic track that Russia supported for decades. And we are seeing the formation of new alliances in the region that can significantly change the situation we are used to. On the one hand, there is the Turkey-Qatar axis, which supports the Muslim Brotherhood and related organizations involved in military conflict in Syria and Libya and Iraq. And on the other hand, we see the projection of Iran's interest, which cause reaction from the Gulf countries. Saudi Arabia no longer represents regional hegemony as it once did, and the conflict in Yemen shows the vulnerability of Riyadh. The Emirates is adapting to the new conditions and has made an unprecedented decision to establish diplomatic ties with Israel. And with the support of United States, other regional countries may follow suit. Next up is Bahrain, we see just now. I think we should wait for the next meeting of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, where this issue can be hushed up, and the very least establishing ties with Israel destroys previous agreements on Palestine, especially idea to place embassies in Jerusalem, and this could lead to a new multi-level crisis. And Turkey already uses political rhetoric around this issue. Of course, in addition to local actors, major players are the European Union and China, which have an active policy there. The European Union has traditionally used European neighborhood policy and till now have South Partnership that covers 10 countries in North Africa and Middle East: Algeria, Egypt, Israel, Jordan, Lebanon, Libya, Morocco, Palestine, Tunisia, and Syria. And all of them are ex-European colonies. That it's very interesting. And I think that anti-colonialism courage will be next level of the strategies of any kind of revolutionary movement in the Middle East, or also on a political philosophical level during the geopolitical changes and turbulence. And of course, there's still no consensus between moderates and fundamentalists. That is also interesting to see how it will be developed. And from point of view of political vacuum, unipolar moment of United States is over, and Russia and China coming in Middle East, but they not act like hegemonic power. That is very important. They act like a partner or kind of new actor, a new old actor in the region. For example, Russia is security provider, and everyone sees that Russia much better security provider than United States in Iraq and Afghanistan, for example. China may be kind of economical partner and to push economic progress in Middle East countries. European Union, actually, I don't know how European Union and what European Union can propose to Middle East countries, because they mostly run secular policy in many European countries. There are anti-Islamic movements, and new liberal agenda of European Union not supported in traditional countries of Middle East. Maybe there will kind of elements of economic cooperation. But anyway, there we see opportunity of new to build new construction of the region under new conditions. Even for example, we are critical about Israeli Emirates diplomatic organizations, new one, but from point of view of diplomatical creativeness, it's kind of rethinking what to do exactly in the region. maybe how to rethink Arabic customs, how to rethink Muslim Islam philosophy, how implemented in regional policy. And from this point of view, Middle East can be presented like a new political pole. And maybe to use a term of Carl Schmitt, it's like he proposed big spaces. And from this point of view, Middle East may be a new emerging big space. And together with European countries, with Russia, with Iran, with China, with India, and other regions, it seems like emerging multipolarity. And from this point of view, I think we have a good perspectives. And at last, I think that some theoretical frames about possible future conflicts are artificial made, and there is very possible to avoid wars in the region in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Leonid. Thank you very much. 3 questions for you, two possibly questions. One is, can you briefly discuss the joint statement between China and Russia at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization? Do you see this as the beginning of a Sino-Russian alliance? And what weightage will this bring to the shaping of the Middle East region? And second question I have is that, can you discuss the Middle East investments in Russia and the recent battle over oil production between Russia and Saudi Arabia?
First of all, latest development with China, it's not something new. We have signed, for example, first declaration on multipolarity and provided it to United Nations 1993. Then we organized many kind of bilateral ties and cooperation and projects. We just developing our ties in many senses, in military, in political, in economic, and so on. And of course, Shanghai Cooperation Organization is more a Chinese project than Russian. But China for us kind of backyard, and Russia for China, it's also backyard in a possible global conflict with United States. And both Beijing and Moscow understand it very well. So we need each other for cooperation. And second, about agreement with Gulf countries, yes, we have signed protocol with Saudi Arabia. It's not kind of contract about investments and about some new approaches and to establish funds for both countries. We also discussed possible arms deals with Saudi Arabia. And I think that Russia open to cooperate with many countries. We have a few platforms for cooperation with regional actors, and with Qatar, also with Turkey. And for my opinion, and it's official position, that Russia will be continuing policy of non-interference into domestic affairs of the countries, but step by step, Russia interested in development different levels of cooperation. And recent visit of Vladimir Putin to Emirates is also a kind of confirmation that Russia is open for cooperation, open with different countries. We have good achievements with Islamic Republic of Iran, but we also can do much more with Arabic countries of the region.